up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get to in the world of volleyball. I have a guest me ready to talk some high school girls volleyball. Speaking of high school girls volleyball, modern day, they repeat as CIF Southern Section champions against Sierra Canyon. How did those Monarchs do it, and who stood out? Also, we had a lot of big wins in terms of the NCAA Women's Volleyball World. As Illinois took out USC, we had UC Riverside picking up their first ever win against Hawaii. That was a big one right there. There's lots of upsets aplenty in terms of the NCAA Women's Volleyball World. And we had the San Diego Snatch getting crowned the ACC League champion. They started from the bottom, now they're finishing on top. The Hamlet Volleyball, that's next. None of us service volleyball action here on Set Point. After our sponsors, this is Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 272 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And the way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point_IE, and on Instagram, at set_point_IESR. You can follow me, the host, Teran Rodriguez, at Teran Rodriguez1. Without any further delay, as you can see on my right, I have a guest. He's actually a former Set Point guest, and he's also been a guest on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. He covers a lot of sports in the Inland Empire, ranging from the likes of high school sports like Temecula Valley, Marietta Valley, Corona Centennial, to the collegiate level such as CBU, and I think a little UC Riverside. He works for WAC Hoops Nation. He's currently in Dallas, where he's going to be covering a women's basketball game for WAC Hoops Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Daryl Trujillo. How you doing, Daryl?
Not bad, Teran. Travel day, as you know, is always long, but nice to be in the hotel room, settled down, and ready to go to Abilene tomorrow.
Excellent. And hopefully everyone can hear you. I'm sure I can hear you perfectly. So without any further delay, let us begin. But first, just to make sure everything is all hunky-dory, these are the thoughts and opinions of myself, Teran Rodriguez, and of Daryl Trujillo, and not the thoughts and opinions of any third or fourth party organizations. Just got to make sure the feds are not watching. But Daryl, all right, let's talk a little high school girls volleyball, as we're going to start the show a little differently. Normally I talk NCAA women's volleyball, but Daryl is here, and we're going to be talking a little high school girls volleyball. So, Daryl, you actually got to cover a high school girls volleyball final, which was the CIF Southern Section Division 5 final. I said we were going to be talking the Division 8 final, but I got my divisions mixed up. The game that Daryl covered was Division 5 between Corona and Canyon County. So tell everyone, what was that like, and tell everyone the whole story about it.
So, it was a wild game. Went to 5 sets. My 5th 5-set match of the year covering volleyball. Corona fights back from 2-1 down to win their first title in program history. But the story for Corona is just the turnaround they've been on since Paul Schroeder took over the program back in 2018. Before he got there, they were winless in 6 of 7 Big 8 League campaigns at one point. Now, for those of you who don't know the Big 8 League, you're talking Roosevelt, Corona Centennial, Corona Santiago, Norco, King, a really, really good Inland Empire volleyball league, and then Corona was just so far behind the rest of them, they would get run through, most of the time in those years. But, just the story there is, like I said, their kind of rise from practically the ashes to a CIF championship. And there, the big thing is family. You know, you have Paul Schroeder as the head coach. His daughter Logan is on his staff, a former Arizona Christian player. Bristol and Chloe Crystalman, a pair of junior college players, came back to their alma mater to coach their younger sister Charlotte. And then you have Hannah and Claire Haas. Hannah is a commit to Sonoma State. The story there is just the family and the way they stuck it out through the lean years to get to where they are.
I love it. And that was a thrilling final right there. That was an absolute barn burner. Corona was able to pull it out in a fifth set against Canyon County. Honestly, who were some of the X factors in that game from either team, and what was the turning point of said match?
Well, okay, so Hannah Haas and Amelia Bonema combined for 35 kills on the night and about a half a dozen aces, if memory serves. So they were the two star standouts for Corona. And then for Country Canyon, Paris
Country.
Taylor had, up by the 114-5. Was Paris Taylor had 23 kills and a loss. And you really had to feel for Canyon Country. They just, so many long rallies they kept alive. They just could not terminate in a lot of lengthy rallies in that match. And basically, we jump ahead to the fifth set. Canyon Country starts out with a 4-1 lead. Corona jumps on them, goes on a 13-4 run to take control of the fifth. And Canyon burned both of their timeouts really early trying to stop it, just could not stop the momentum. And it was the home match for Corona, which, I mean, they pulled out both sets of bleachers in that gym. And, I mean, I only worked in that gym one time previously when I was officiating, and it was loud in there just that time I was officiating with the few people that were following the program at the time. I was sweating bullets when I got out of that gym. It got really warm in there.
Yeah, I can imagine some high school gyms were pretty warm. And most of the high school games that I cover, they don't really have the AC. It feels weird when I cover a like Long Beach State or UC Irvine or USC, and then when I cover a high school game, there's no like AC. But looking at Corona and Corona's path to the final, they took down Monrovia in the first round in straight sets, took down Faith Baptist in straight sets, which I think might have been the number 4 seed of the division. Then they took down La Habra, another good team, in 4 sets. That team was battle tested. Then the semifinals, they took down Lakewood in straight sets. Those are some pretty solid teams. Like, when I don't really want to like go be like Mother Goose, but Division 5 has some pretty solid teams. Like Lakewood used to be in one of the higher divisions, and that team's pretty solid. So I think for Corona, they had a lot of good from this Division 5 playoff run, and I was pretty impressed. So Larry B actually pops up. He says, Corona Centennial Huskies or the Corona Panthers? Corona Panthers, Larry, but Corona Centennial did have a great year. So, it was the Corona Panthers to answer Larry B's question. But have you covered Corona Centennial? Because I got to see them in the summer at the Queens of the Court tournament where they wound up winning the whole thing.
I did not get to see Centennial this year. I know they made it to the second round before getting reverse sweeped by, was it Torrance?
South Torrance.
South Torrance. Okay, I get my Torrances confused.
It's all good.
But yeah, and banner year for Joe Schnanke and company. They won an outright Big 8 league title. Nothing to hang your head about going out in the second round of D2 there. And we were all holding our breath back here, hoping we'd get a Centennial Etowanda match there in that next round, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, and that's actually a perfect segue to go into Division 1, where there was another Inland Empire team that was in the final this past Saturday. But yeah, we talked about Corona Centennial. Yeah, losing to South Torrance is tough. Like Division 2, I talked about how Division 1 is filled with like really good teams. Division 2 has a lot of good teams that are cut above the rest. There was Saugus, Santa Margarita, Palos Verdes, which played in the final, Murrieta Valley, which probably could have been in Division 1 had it not been for Temecula Valley beating them on the last day of the regular season. A lot of good teams like J. Sarah too, Orange Lutheran, but
Ontario
the
Christian.
Marietta Valley, that team wound up making it to the final against Palos Verdes. So unfortunately, you or I couldn't be at this match. I really was so close to going to this one just because Casey DeMaria of Palos Verdes is a fantastic player. Going to Stanford, and then there was another player, Miley Thunstrom, who was legit in that match. But Marietta Valley did wind up beating Palos Verdes, almost getting reverse swept, but they were able to hold off the Sea Kings in that fifth set. Obviously, the big story was Miley Thunstrom's 32 kills. Casey DeMaria had 42 kills for Palos Verdes. Tell me, what's it like covering a player like Miley Thunstrom, who is bound for St. Mary's?
I mean, we got to a point earlier this year where, because I've covered 3 Marietta Valley 5-setters, where like I walk into the gym and the coaches just look at me and is like, "All right, we're going 5." But no, to be completely serious, Thunstrom is a great get for the WCC. Fans in the WCC just remember that name. Heavy arm, physical blocker, really a coach's dream in the WCC, and same thing for Riley Short going to Sacred Heart in the NEC. Not as good a defender, I don't think, but just as good an attacker and probably as good a server. And then I think Melanie Hewlett, their setter, might be one of the more underappreciated setters in Southern California.
Awesome. And the first 2 sets, as I mentioned, went to Marietta Valley 25-23 and 25-20. Palos Verdes won the third set 25-20, and then they wound up running through the fourth set 25-15, where DeMaria had 9 kills in that set. And then the fifth set, Marietta Valley got off to an early 3-0 lead, but eventually Palos Verdes closed within 1 at 9-8, and I did see through Eric Paul Johnson that Palos Verdes was 1 rotation away from getting Casey DeMaria into the front row. But fortunately for Marietta Valley, they were able to eke out the win before Casey DeMaria just went off. So how big is this win for Marietta Valley? Just because 5 years ago, they wound up getting reverse swept against Esperanza in the final.
This is huge for Marietta Valley. This has been a big year for them. Their first Southwestern League championship in, I want to say it's like 8 or 9 years. You follow that up with a deep playoff run with a core of seniors that chose to stay home instead of going, elsewhere. I mean, when we look at Southern California volleyball nowadays, how often do we look at a top program and not see a transfer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this core of seniors stayed together, worked together. They knocked Vista Marietta off the throne of the Southwestern League title. They won a Southwestern League championship or co-championship, sharing it with Temecula Valley. They win the program's first title in school history, and now they got a home match in the first round of state. I mean, a deep run in state would be the icing on the cake, but obviously we know Division 1 in state is no joke, from 16-1.
Yeah, I think that's actually a perfect segue to go into the CIF state playoffs, as Division 1 is stacked as always, as it's just transition from there. And we talk about the open. I'll talk about the open division a little later, but Division 1, that's where a lot of teams where you cover are in it. Well, at least a good portion of them, like Etiwanda, which is the 9th seed. The former set point guest Craig Pizzanti's Huntington Beach team is the top seed in the SoCal region. Marietta Valley is the 3 seed. They got a tough draw against Oaks Christian. And then Temecula Valley is the 2 seed against Academy of Our Lady of Peace, which is from San Diego. So, yeah, talk to us about Temecula Valley, Etiwanda, and a little more about Marietta Valley going into state.
Temecula Valley's not that far removed from a state championship run of their own. Only about, it was 2018. So
yes.
And current head coach Nehemiah Costa was actually an assistant on that staff. under one of the coach of that on that staff was a former assistant at UCSD. Let's see, Jordan Amoy was the setter on that team. And so for Temecula Valley, it's been a slow road back, a little bit of coaching instability after that coach left. Costa stepped in the last few years and has given them some stability, and kind of the same story as Murrieta Valley. A core of seniors decided to stay home instead of going elsewhere. Maddie Snow, Avalon Heinz, their libero, Savannah Sheridan, that's the core there. And the thing of it is, in the Southwestern League, everybody knows everybody. They've probably shared a net together somewhere in club, and that's what makes it fun to cover.
I agree. And I think the Southwestern League, Larry B just said it, the Southwestern League ain't no joke, especially in girls volleyball. I think there was a year where I think 4 or 5 teams got in, like Murrieta Mesa, obviously Vista Murrieta, you had Murrieta Valley and Temecula Valley. Like, that league is certainly no joke, especially in girls volleyball. But looking at Temecula Valley, obviously they've got Academy of Our Lady of Peace, but on their next round opponents, I'm guessing, if I had to guess, I'd say they'll get Santa Margarita in the next round. And if they get Santa Margarita, that's going to be a tough opponent, just because that team is they're young, but they're talented. And one player that they got to watch for is Ireland Real, who's 6'5" and an outside hitter. So looking at Murrieta Valley, they got Oaks Christian in the first round, and that's such a tough draw as well, just because Oaks Christian has Manaya Obechi, who's bound for Nebraska. She's a outside hitter she's a middle blocker and right side hitter. So, yeah, Murrieta Valley has got a tough path to the final, as well as Temecula Valley, but state is no joke. So, what do you think?
I mean, it's been a great year for both of those programs. This is just, if you're getting to the second week in November on the volleyball court, you've done a lot right this year. And as much as you don't want to see that road end, you're just going to do everything in your power to keep that from going away. And this Murrieta Valley team is not afraid of a fifth set. What I was telling you before we started recording, they're 6-0 in fives.
And that was the big thing right there. They're 6-0 in 5-set matches. They've never been afraid of a 5-set match, and they have the home court advantage against Oaks Christian. Like, the Oaks Christian has to go from
that's a solid 2-hour trip, I think, on a Tuesday,
I
maybe
think so.
2.5 hours.
Yeah,
Especially
I think it's
bus.
like in the Studio City area. I gotta brush up on my Oaks Christian, but yeah, it's somewhere in the Westlake Village area. So they're from Westlake Village. They got to go all the way to Murrieta. That is a pretty long drive. And then Etiwanda, they're on the road against San Luis Obispo. That's a winnable
half
match.
a day right there.
Etiwanda is a pretty solid team. And interestingly enough, funny enough, their head coach just followed me on Instagram, and their team just followed me on Instagram. So tell me about Etiwanda and what I could possibly expect, because if they win on Tuesday, which it would be tomorrow as of this recording, I could be seeing them on Thursday when they play Huntington Beach, most likely.
Didn't see Etiwanda during the regular year. Heard a lot about them. Brooke Hansen, their setter, is the engine that makes them go. From the things I've heard, seems like when they pulled her out, they seem to struggle. If you go back to the beginning of the year, you'll see some tighter set scores against some smaller schools. That's when they pulled her out, trying some different things. But again, solid team. That's a team that Murrieta Valley swept on the road in the semis to get to that championship match against Palos Verdes. And I can remember, we were in Orange County with a couple of our teams, Miller against Garden Grove in Division 8, and then Eric was doing flag football. But I remember looking at the tweets coming out of that match, and I was like, boy, I don't think I ever would have expected Etiwanda to get swept at home.
Right. I was about to say, Etiwanda and Murrieta Valley did meet in the semifinals of the Southern Section playoffs. That was I was very surprised. I also kind of wondered why that was an early start game. I think it was a 3 p.m. start game, but Marietta Valley just really took Etiwanda to the shed because normally 3 versus 2 matches are like it can go either way, especially since I I want to say most of those players probably know each other through club volleyball and whatnot, or they know each other in the area. But I was just so surprised Marietta Valley just swept them. The only set that I think Etiwanda was in was probably maybe the first and the third set, but it just was Marietta Valley all the way.
And that just I think that shows you. I don't think that shows you that Etiwanda had an off day. It just shows you how good a level of volleyball Marietta Valley is playing right now in this postseason run. I mean, you just look at it. I mean, you go back and watch the film on the NFHS network, and you watch them against Palos Verdes, and they're like, how are they doing this to a Palos Verdes team that, if you go back to 2 years ago, was in a regional final, made it to the state final with Casey DeMaria. If you remember, Casey DeMaria and that Palos Verdes team knocked out Vista Murrieta the year that Claire Little and Vista won a Southern Section championship.
Yeah, I do remember that. That was the year they made it to Division One, and obviously they had the 0-3 run, but that eventually was the best thing for them because they eventually got one of the top seeds in state in Division One. So, yeah, and I'm also looking at Marietta Valley's path to the playoffs or path to the championship, where they had to go 5 with West Branch, which, God, that must have been a nice little drive right there. And they had to go 5 with Orange Lutheran, a team that I'm kind of familiar with.
I saw that match. I covered that match.
Oh yeah. Orange
Malin
Lutheran
Mitchell
is
had herself
vastly underrated from that Trinity League because it's only a 4-team league, and Orange Lutheran, J. Sarah, and Santa Margarita all tied for second, and Orange Lutheran wound up winning the tiebreaker, which was very baffling. But yeah, Marietta Valley, they're in a good position to possibly win the state championship in Division One, but there's a lot of good teams, and only time will tell. And the first round begins tomorrow. So, other than that, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of those teams or anything else?
Corona's path to state starts on tomorrow night with Valencia, a team in that same league as Canyon that swept Canyon in league play. That's going to be a tough test for the Panthers. Coming off the high of that championship match. Really interested to see how Paul Schroeder's group settles down and gets back on the floor on tomorrow night.
In what division is this?
That'll be State 3, I think.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull it up right there, and it's so tough to come off of a CIF Southern Section championship. Yeah, Corona is the 5 seed. They do play Valencia. And if they win, they'll face the winner of El Dorado and Cleveland. Not Cleveland of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Cleveland of Los Angeles. But yeah, Corona, I give them a good shot. I do see that Central Valley Christian does have a bye, which I don't know. I'm a little wishy-washy on byes during state.
Yeah, but, no. Fill the division if you by whatever means necessary. Unless it's like a softball situation where you have a crap ton of teams declining for whatever reason. Like in Division 8, Miller apparently... So one of our semifinalists in Division 8 was A.B. Miller, who lost to Garden Grove in the semis. I actually had that match, so I have seen Garden Grove. But Miller apparently declined their bid to the state tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, that is rather fascinating. Yeah, I would like to see less buys and more teams in the state playoffs. Like, give it to the teams that have deserved it, that worked their tail off, and that deserve to be in the state playoffs.
Now, if you go past the quarterfinalists and you can't find a team willing to take a spot, then maybe think about it.
Yeah.
But if you've exhausted the quarterfinalists,
look in the higher divisions like Division 2, because Division 1 you automatically go to state. Division 2, if you make quarterfinals, you go to state. And then Division 3, if you make the semifinals, you go to state, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but I mean, like, for like those lower divisions, like, if you have exhausted the quarterfinalists and you can't find a team to fill that 16th spot, by all means, leave it alone. If you can't get past second round, I don't think you don't deserve a spot in state.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else that you wanted to discuss before I let you go? Because I know you're probably busy and whatnot.
You were going to talk about UC Riverside beating Hawaii. I mean, I didn't see that match, but I did see UC Riverside play earlier this year against California Baptist in the Crosstown Showdown.
Yeah.
Much improved Highlander side. Nikki Cannon really did a number in the portal this offseason, adding Mia DeLuhuse, and then she picked up a Cal State San Bernardino transfer in Trinity Sheridan, who really did some damage that night. I think she had 18 kills in a 4-set win over Cal Baptist, which that was the first time since the schools started playing volleyball against each other that UC Riverside has beaten California Baptist. So Nikki Cannon has UC Riverside on the right track. Now, do they have a long ways to go to catch the Hawaiis and the Long Beach States of the world? Yes, but she's got them going in the right direction. And I think when she was hired, you and I were on that press conference call, right?
Yes, we were.
And that's what I wanted to see is, can she make progress in the Big West, and will they give her enough time to build something? And it looks like she's on the right track.
Yeah, and you mentioned Long Beach State. UC Riverside actually has a 5-set win over Long Beach State, which they were actually down for the most part in that 5th set, and then they came back to win it 16-14, which really puzzled me. And yeah, the Big West has just been all over the place, which I'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, Riverside, unfortunately, just is still far behind of some of the other teams. But progress, as you've mentioned, they're making progress. Those wins over Hawaii and Long Beach State are like ways that you want to like keep your players and keep them engaged, saying, hey, we're going to make something happen here. And although it doesn't show in the overall record, getting wins like that is big.
That's going to help her recruiting
Yes.
this offseason. She can step into a club and talk to a kid that might have gone elsewhere and say, look, we're on the right track. We need you to keep moving upward. The biggest thing for UC Riverside, she has got to start winning, i.e. high-level talent. Because if you look at her predecessor, Michelle Patton-Coleman, she lost so much local talent over her handful of years. I mean, I can reel off the names that went to the D2s or the coastal schools. But I don't think we have time for that, so I won't.
Right. No worries.
But the biggest issue for Nikki Cannon going forward, can she win Inland Empire local recruits and get our top local kids to stay home? That's the question I have, and that's a question that only time's going to answer.
And that is a very valid question. Well, thank you very much, Daryl, for tuning, or well, not for tuning in, for being a guest here on Set Point. Before I let you go for the night, tell everyone where they could find you.
Follow me on X at Daryl_golfer, DERRYL_golfer. Instagram at Daryl Trujillo. And that's about the only 2 social media platforms I use.
It's all good. Yeah, that's where you can find Daryl. I'm guessing you mainly use X over Instagram.
Yes.
Got it. All right. Well, Daryl, thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure having you on, whether it's on Set Point or whether it's on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Safe travels back home. Enjoy Dallas. That's where my brother lives. And just have yourself a great time in Dallas.
Thanks, Teran.
Mm-hmm. Take care, man.
Yep.
All right. That was my guest, Daryl Trujillo. I always appreciate him popping in. So definitely follow him at Daryl_golfer. But now let's get into, let's continue on the high school girls volleyball scene. And let's talk a little bit of some modern day versus Sierra Canyon. So yeah, long story short, if you saw the NFHS network, or if you saw in person, Modern Day really took it to them in the Division I final. I was just impressed by how Modern Day played, and Modern Day just swept him. It was 25-20, 25-16, 25-20. I think it might have been made history for the fastest Division I final in girls volleyball I've seen. No, nothing against Sierra Canyon, but Sierra Canyon just did not have it against Modern Day. And there's a reason why I kind of picked Modern Day to win. Not just because I probably was pressured by a lot of the Modern Day players and I didn't want to be eating crow for a second straight year, but Modern Day just had it going on as Wesley Matavao led the way with 12 kills. She had a couple service aces. Layli Ostavar had 11 kills and 10 digs. Kayla Ostavar had 15 digs. Sam Kapinpin added 20 assists, 8 digs, and 4 service aces. That was just an outright impressive. And they didn't even have a big hitting percentage. I think Modern Day hit around the low 200s, and they hit 225 while holding Sierra Canyon to only a hitting percentage of 85. So that was how Modern Day wound up winning. For Sierra Canyon, they were led by Eva Jeffries, who had 7 kills and 7 digs. Hannah McGinnis, who's only a sophomore, she had 5 kills. She started off really strong. She had 4 kills in the first set, but afterward, she just really cooled off, and that's not ideal for Sierra Canyon. Sierra Canyon as a team only had 23 kills on the night, while Modern Day almost doubled that. They had 43 kills, which that's very concerning in a CIF Southern Section Division I championship match. So, and then other players that stepped up for Sierra Canyon, Lucky Fasavalu had 9 assists, 7 digs, and 3 service aces. Now, those 3 service aces kind of came when Sierra Canyon had their backs against the wall and Modern Day was throwing in substitutes or subs in. But it was great that she was able to get those service aces. Lauren Lynch had 12 digs, but that was kind of the big thing right there. She only had 12 digs, and she is a player that will probably average like 15, maybe 20 digs a match. And she is committed to San Diego, University of San Diego. So, yeah, the big plan for Modern Day was keep the ball away from Lauren Lynch, and they executed that perfectly. So Modern Day just had a massive masterclass. The only thing Sierra Canyon kind of outdid Modern Day in was blocks, where they had 6 blocks to Modern Day's 4, and that was mainly courtesy of Brandy Boston, who had 4 blocks while adding 2 kills. But other than that, Sierra Canyon, their youth and inexperience kind of showed. I don't think they had too many players from that CIF Southern Section Division I championship team back 2 years ago. But Modern Day repeated as champions. They wound up winning their 8th CIF Southern Section championship, which actually ties them for the most in Orange County with Santa Margarita and Newport Harbor. So a great accomplishment for Coach Dan Odell and his team. Definitely check out the interviews that I had with Wesley Matavao as well as Kayla Ostavar. Last year I interviewed Layli, her little sister. Now I interviewed Kayla, the big sister. Got to give the liberos some love. And then I also interviewed Dan Odell, obviously. And then I hate to interview a coach after a loss in the final, but I interviewed Stephanie Wigfall, the Sierra Canyon girls volleyball coach. Look, it does me no good to interview a coach after a loss. It really sucks. But honestly, I like to get the perspective from both sides after a finals match, unless, of course, I don't have access. But honestly, I do appreciate her for letting me interview her. All right, but that is that for the Southern Section Division I championship. Now let's jump to state. So jumping back to state, the open division is kind of interesting. So I talk about how Division I is a fascinating division, but that is like filled with 32 teams, 16 from Northern California, 16 from Southern California. Open division is only 8 teams from each region, 8 from NorCal, 8 from SoCal. So on the NorCal region, we have Branson versus Rockland, 1 seed Branson versus 8 seed Rockland, 4 seed Marian Catholic versus 5th seed Archbishop Mitty, 3rd seed St. Ignatius versus 6th seed Clovis North, and 2 seed St. Francis taking on number 7 St. Mary's. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Archbishop Mitty makes it out of state. I think it's going to be St. Francis versus Archbishop Mitty. Nothing against Branson or Marian Catholic, or Rockland, but I think Archbishop Mitty is a freaking wagon when it comes to state. Like when it comes to Archbishop Mitty and state, they don't play a whole lot of games. That team is really good. And John Wallace, the former Santa Clara women's volleyball coach, does a fantastic job with this program. But St. Francis is also pretty darn good as well. And St. Mary's, they don't have an easy match. St. Mary's, I saw them in Dave Moe's. That team is pretty darn good if you ask me. And for the SoCal region, that consists of 1-seed Cathedral Catholic versus 8-seed Los Alamitos, 4-seed Redondo Union taking on 5-seed Marymount, 3-seed Sierra Canyon taking on 6-seed Miracosta, and 2-seed Mater Dei taking on 7-seed Torrey Pines. Now, Cathedral Catholic, I'm very baffled that Cathedral Catholic is the top overall seed in the SoCal region, and that's no offense to them. I thought Mater Dei would be the top overall seed just because Mater Dei, if you've seen their ranking on like Max Preps and whatnot, their ranking speaks for itself. Mater Dei should be the number one overall seed in the CIF SoCal regionals. Larry B says, what sport isn't Mater Dei good at? Oh, that's a good one, Larry. But back to Mater Dei being the 2 seed. That is so weird. I get it. Maybe CIF is the state committee is taking into consideration Cathedral Catholic's win over Mater Dei in the Dave Moe's tournament, or maybe Mater Dei, they're taking consideration of Mater Dei's losses early in the season. But those losses that they suffered against being Redondo Union and Torrey Pines, those were without most of their top players. So I think Mater Dei, in my opinion, they deserve to be the top seed. And that's no disrespect to Cathedral Catholic. Cathedral Catholic wound up winning the CIF San Diego section over Torrey Pines in straight sets, which, I mean, Cathedral Catholic has won that the past 4 seasons. And Juliana Kahn deserves a lot of credit. But I think Mater Dei kind of I wouldn't say they got screwed, but I feel Mater Dei deserves the number 1 overall seed because they wound up winning Durango. That is never an easy tournament to win. They wound up finishing 3rd in Nike Arizona Tournament of Champions. They wound up finishing 2nd in Dave Moe's tournament, which was behind Cathedral Catholic. Then they weren't even at full strength. They didn't have Wesley Mataval. And Layli Ostavar was back in her first week, and she kind of got limited action. But yeah, I feel that's kind of the breaks for Mater Dei. They're just going to have to become road warriors when it comes to making it to the state championship. It's going to be a little tougher, but Cathedral Catholic's got a tough draw themselves. Los Alamitos is not an easy draw because that team serves really tough. They have 2 really good pin hitters in Ashley Rapetti and Katie Foley. Their middle, Charlotte Hall, isn't too bad either. Their setter, they got plenty of setters. They've got Sammy Maxwell. They have Royal Banducci. I forget the third one, but it's mainly those 2 running the offense. Their libero, Caitlin Herwig, is fantastic. So I think Cathedral Catholic's got their work cut out for them in the first round, which is going to be on Wednesday. So Open Division starts on Wednesday. Most of the times will be at 6 p.m. And then Redondo Union Marymount is a fascinating matchup. Redondo Union, I think, can win that matchup just based on them being at home. And even though I said they've got a young team and they're inexperienced and they're probably a year away, they're looking really good. Now, my only thing is that Marymount has Ellie Vandaway, who's committed to SMU. If Redondo Union slows Ellie Vandaway down, I think Redondo Union wins this one fairly easily. And then Sierra Canyon and Miracosta, that's a good matchup right there. Sierra Canyon, when they played Miracosta in the CIF Southern Section playoffs, they actually had 3 or 4 players that did not play because of the flu. So I think with Sierra Canyon at full strength, I think Sierra Canyon can maybe win that one a little bit more easily. They just got to slow down Audrey Flanagan, who is a freaking wagon for the Mustangs. And then Mater Dei Torrey Pines, I don't think Mater Dei is going to get an easy matchup, but Mater Dei's got to lock in because when you win CIF, the CIF Southern Section, that's one goal out of the way. But then state is a whole nother goal. You kind of can't get too high off the big time win. You only get 2 days of rest and 1 day of practice. So, or maybe 1 day of rest and 1 day of practice and recovery. Well, actually, no. I'm wrong. You get 2 days of rest, 2 days of practice, and then 3 days overall. Just because I forgot Wednesday is when the Open Division starts. Division 1 and every other division starts on Tuesday. But yeah, I think Mater Dei is going to have a tricky matchup with this one. They should handle Torrey Pines, but Torrey Pines is a fantastic team led by Brennan Dean. So I don't think there's going to be any easy matchup in terms of the Open Division. Because if you make the Open Division, you've got a pretty darn good team, in my opinion. All right, but that is that for the CIF state playoffs and for some high school girls volleyball. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we've got some NCAA Division I volleyball to discuss, and we've got a little AVP to discuss, and I'll be recapping Week 11 of the NCAA women's volleyball season and previewing Week 12. Keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold. Have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Sin City Sports with Cale Henderson and the Inter Report with Mr. Ralph Calise, who actually was in the chat room. He says, "Good evening, Teran. Have a great show." My man, Spike It. Thank you, Ralph. And then Daryl Trujillo, who was just a guest on, he said, Ontario Christian in 2019 traveled 1,100 miles en route to a state title. So that wasn't just one match. It was just all over the place. So that's a pretty impressive stat right there. And I do remember that Ontario Christian had an amazing run through not losing a postseason game from, I think, 2018 all the way to 2021. Because if it was 2020, there were no postseason due to COVID, the COVID-19 pandemic. So Thank you for that statistic, Daryl. And once again, thank you for being a guest on today's show, Daryl. All right. Now let's talk a little NCAA women's volleyball as we got to get into the NCAA Week 11 recap. And oh my goodness, there was just a lot that happened this past week. It was just amazing. So jumping back, so the week pretty much got started on Tuesday, if not Wednesday. Oh, yeah, well, let's go over Tuesday. So Tuesday, UC Davis beat UC Riverside. That was pretty much one of the only notable matchups, but that was pretty much it. So jumping to Wednesday was the big one. We had number 11, Arizona State, taking down number 8, Kansas in 4. That was big for Arizona State just because Arizona State now has a leg. They have the tiebreaker over Kansas in case the Sun Devils and the Jayhawks finish atop the Big 12 conference standings. Then number 15, Texas took down Mississippi State in 4. We had Baylor sweeping Texas Tech. Sorry if I'm cleaning my glasses. And then we had number 23, Utah, taking down Colorado in the battle of, the Battle of the Border? Either way, they took them down in 4 sets, which I thought was pretty good right there. And that was pretty much that. We had Virginia outlasting Virginia Tech in 5. That was a nice little matchup right there. Love that Virginia versus Virginia Tech rivalry. And Virginia deserves a lot of credit for how they've turned their season around. They're 9-5 currently in the ACC. And Shannon Wells deserves a lot of credit. She actually follows me on X, formerly known as Twitter. Gotta brag a little. So there's that. And Missouri also picked up a nice win over Georgia. That's a team that has been flying under the radar, but more on that later. Thursday, we had number 2, Nebraska sweeping number 12, Oregon in straight sets, despite Oregon setting an attendance record of, I think, 8,500 plus. So very impressive win for Nebraska. They are just dominant. I would say, I feel they're dominating most of their opponents. I mean, they're sweeping their opponents, which are pretty darn good opponents. They're not just sweeping cupcake opponents. They're sweeping pretty solid opponents. And then we had Washington taking down number 14, Minnesota on the road in 4, which I thought was pretty good. It was a big full circle moment as Leslie Gabriel, the current head coach of Washington, took down the former Washington women's volleyball coach in Keegan Cook. Yes, Keegan Cook, not John Cook. I got those two mixed up. I apologize, which was a big facepalm moment on my behalf. But yeah, Leslie Gabriel in Washington took down Keegan Cook in Minnesota. She obviously was looking forward to that, and I was very impressed with Washington's win over Minnesota. And look, there's no better way to say it. Washington deserves to be in the NCAA tournament. If they don't get into the NCAA tournament, I will raise HE double hockey sticks. But I digress. Then we had number 18 TCU sweeping UCF. On Thursday, this was kind of a big win right here. We had UC Riverside taking down Hawaii in 5 sets, which Daryl and I alluded to. That was UC Riverside's first ever victory against Hawaii in program history. I said it last week. I said Hawaii has never lost to UC Riverside until now. So it just goes to show that the Big West has been so crazy. It has been wild and all over the place. So that was a great win by UC Riverside. Again, and they've beaten Long Beach State and Hawaii. Their record doesn't show it, but UC Riverside has been making progress. And that is so big when you're in a conference that can recruit all over, not just maybe California, but maybe all across the world as well, especially with Hawaii having access to all the talented players from like Punahou, Kamehameha, so on and so forth. And then closing off Thursday's notable matchups and notable results, we had St. Thomas from Minnesota, the former Division III school. They wound up taking down South Dakota in 5. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why is that so big? That's South Dakota's first loss of the season, which means there are no more undefeated teams in NCAA Women's Volleyball Division I. So St. Thomas, the Tommies, wound up beating South Dakota. Now, the 5th set, I think it was like 14-9 at one point. South Dakota ties it up at 14-14, but then the Tommies are able to rattle off the last 2 points to secure the victory and hand South Dakota their first loss of the season. That was so big right there. That's a great little full circle moment right there. Going from NCAA Division III and then making the jump up to Division I because all the programs and financial things just were in the favor of St. Thomas. And then just picking up a win like that, that's incredible right there. So great job to St. Thomas. And unfortunately, them's the breaks for South Dakota. But you got to pick yourself up off the mat. One loss doesn't define your season. And you got to keep going from here on out. Like, just because you lost one match doesn't mean it's the end of the season. You'd rather lose now than lose in the Summit League tournament or the NCAA tournament. So for South Dakota, I think this loss is good for them just because they no longer have the pressure of remaining undefeated and whatnot. And then I guess also on Thursday, it was Colorado State. I think it was this night. It was on Thursday. I think Colorado State wound up pulling off a nice little win, which Daniel Gilman was on the call, former set point guest. So I had to make note of that right there just because he is a former set point guest, and I like to promote my former set point guest. But I guess another notable result from Thursday was LMU defeating Pepperdine in 4 sets. If I recall correctly, that puts LMU all alone in first place, and that puts Pepperdine in a very tricky situation. So LMU picking up that win could not have come at a better time, and I think that they swept the season series against Pepperdine. So great job to those Lions. And unfortunately for Pepperdine, them's the breaks, but it is what it is. You just got to hope for the best in terms of like winning out and maybe, hence the word maybe, making the NCAA tournament. Excuse me for my nose being itchy, but yeah, it was a tough one for Pepperdine. All they can just really do is just see how everything else plays out. Maybe LMU drops a match here or there, but them's the breaks. And then Friday we had Pitt sweeping number 25 North Carolina. Number 3 Penn State took down Northwestern in 4. Yeah, Penn State seems to be getting challenged a lot. It seems like every team can challenge Penn State and make them sweat a little, but Penn State always seems to pick up the win. Then you had number 4 Louisville sweeping Syracuse. Number 5 Creighton swept Butler. Number 8 Stanford swept Clemson. Number 7 Wisconsin swept Iowa. This was the big win on Friday. You had Arizona taking down number 8 Kansas in Arizona and Tucson in 5. That was the win right there. That was a big win for Arizona. And for Kansas, they picked a bad week to lose 2 straight. Now they're not only behind Arizona State in terms of the tiebreaker, they're now behind them. And now they got to hope that Arizona State messes up not once, but twice. So, and Kansas has a tough week this week. I think they played TCU and Baylor, if I'm not mistaken, which I'll get that into in a little bit. Continuing on Friday, we had number 9 Purdue taking down Indiana in 4. Nice win right there. You had number 10 SMU taking down Duke in straight sets. Number 11 Arizona State did not have a letdown as they took down Kansas State in 4. You had number 13 Kentucky impressively sweeping Texas A&M at home. Very good win right there. You had number 16 Georgia Tech taking down Cal in straight sets on the road. You had number 19 Dayton taking down Davidson in straight sets. And then this was kind of the one I think Larry does not want me to talk about. You had Illinois take down number 20 USC in 5. Yeah, and thank you, Larry. I do appreciate that. But you're probably not going to like this part. Illinois took down USC in Illinois in 5, in Champaign, Illinois in 5. So, look, I know USC is playing in the Big Ten, but why do you have to lose? I think that loss pretty much seals it for SC, and they won't be hosting. I think that loss might have just killed any and all hope that the Trojans had of hosting in the NCAA first and second round of the tournament. Why, USC? Why did you have to lose? It was one thing to lose to Michigan State where you got reverse swept, but you had to lose to Illinois? And the Michigan State loss was even more unacceptable. USC went from being in the top 16 via the committee to now pretty much being on the borderline of not being ranked at all. They'll make the NCAA tournament, that's for sure. But USC losing to Illinois might have just sealed their hopes of not hosting. Just when we thought that USC fans couldn't get away from the pain in terms of their football team giving them pain, their women's volleyball team has to kind of follow suit. And that's no offense to Brad Keller. I like USC. If USC was going to host this season in terms of the NCAA tournament, I would be there in a heartbeat. But now it's looking very bleak in terms of them hosting. Anyway, then we had number 23 BYU sweeping number 21, or number 23 Utah sweeping number 21 BYU in the Holy War. That was a big win for Utah. It was kind of a get-back game for the Utes, winning in the Holy War. That was a nice win. Then we had number 22 Florida sweeping Auburn, number 24 Florida State sweeping Wake Forest. Virginia took down Virginia Tech in straight sets again. And then Hawaii took down UC Davis in 4 sets at Davis. They needed that one the worst way. If Hawaii lost that one, I don't know if they would have been able to. Or actually, no, I think that was on Saturday. But regardless, I might be getting ahead of myself. But yeah, Hawaii did take down UC Davis a few days after they lost to UC Riverside. God, that was a big win for Hawaii. If they don't win that one, I think their chances of getting the top seed in the Big West Conference tournament might have taken a massive hit. But them winning that matchup was very big. All right, and that is that for pretty much all the notable matchups from Friday. Jumping to Saturday, we had number 2 Nebraska taking down Washington straight sets. Then on NBC, we had number 7 Wisconsin sweeping Penn State. First set was 25-23, so everyone thought, okay, we're going to get ourselves a nice little matchup right here. But then the second and third set, 25-13 and 25-12. It kind of reminded me of the Big West Conference Tournament Championship when Hawaii and Long Beach State played a tough first set, and then Hawaii just took it straight to the beach in the next 2 sets. That's kind of what Wisconsin did. And this was number 7 Wisconsin beating number 3 Penn State in Wisconsin, in the dungeon. So, man, Wisconsin, other than that loss to Nebraska, they're playing really well. While Penn State, God, this was such a tough loss for them. And now they're behind Nebraska, which is just continues to mow down everybody for the most part. So, yeah, Wisconsin, they're on the come up, but they're going to need to pull off a big win against Nebraska, and they're going to need to still continue to be consistent. And then on ACC Extra, I think, if not the ACC Network, we had number 6 Stanford sweeping number 16 Georgia Tech. That was a tough loss for Georgia Tech. They were on a little bit of a win streak, but then they kind of ran into the buzzsaw that was Stanford, which they have Aaliyah Rubin, Sammy Francis, Cami Minor, Alina Ogilvy. That's tough right there for Georgia Tech, especially playing on the road. But they're still in a solid position. They're on the border of hosting in the NCAA tournament. As long as they don't have too many bad losses, I think Georgia Tech could be hosting. Then we had number 12 Oregon sweeping number 14 Minnesota. Tough week for Minnesota, losing to both of the Midwest schools. Not Midwest, but like the Northwest schools. Yeah, the Northwest schools being Oregon and Washington. Sorry, I don't know I need to brush up on my geography, but I digress. We had number 17 Baylor sweeping UCF, number 19 Dayton swept Davidson again. And then I guess I should make note of this matchup just because I really wanted to go to this match, but I just couldn't. Long Beach State took down UC Irvine at the Bren in 4 sets. Now, Long Beach State did not have Zaina Meyer, who actually had a concussion, which she's been out for the last 3 matches, I want to say. But thankfully, Long Beach State has won 3 in a row, and they have a 6-2 offense going in Mara Hayes and Maddie Collins. They actually play UC San Diego tomorrow, as of this recording, being Tuesday. I'll be at that matchup, and it'll be interesting to see what Long Beach State can do against a red-hot UC San Diego team that is actually tied for first in the Big West Conference with Cal Poly, Hawaii, and UC Davis. Long Beach State is one match behind UC San Diego, and they got to play their cards right if they want to make the Big West Conference tournament. And then for UC Irvine, this was kind of a tough loss for them just because their three of their last 4 matchups are going to be very tough. They've got Santa Barbara and Cal Poly this week. They've got Cal State Fullerton in their second to last match, which they should handle. No offense to the Titans. And then they close off the regular season at home against Hawaii. And that's going to be a get-back game for Hawaii because if you remember, UC Irvine reverse swept Hawaii in Hawaii, which was such a big win for the Anteaters. So only 6 teams can make the Big West Conference tournament. Everyone else is going home. And it's going to boil down to, I think, Hawaii, San Diego, Cal Poly, and Davis have locked up a spot for the most part. I expect those 4 to be in it. Long Beach State, UC Irvine, and UC Santa Barbara. It's going to be between those 3 teams to see who will get the last 2 spots. But time will tell. And then Sunday we had number 1 Pitt sweeping Duke. We had number 4 Louisville taking down Boston College in straight sets. Number 5 Creighton took down Marquette in 4 sets on FS1. Marquette actually won the first set, but Creighton eventually wound up winning the next 3 sets. They gentlemen swept Marquette. The number 9 Purdue swept Michigan. Nice win right there. Number 10 SMU took down number 25 North Carolina in 4 sets. That was a solid win for SMU. North Carolina's had a good season. Number 19 Kentucky swept LSU at home. Number 20 USC bounced back from that tough loss to Illinois as they took down Indiana in 4 sets. Number 22 Florida swept Alabama. Number 24 Florida State took down NC State in 4. And that was pretty much that in terms of the notable matchups. Actually, hold on. There was a matchup that really irked me. And I think this was on Saturday. And this came from the Big Ten. And I am very, very... I think it was either Sunday or Saturday or Sunday. Either way, this did come from the Big Ten. And this really hurt my soul. Maryland took down UCLA in 4 sets. Now, I will say this is a very bad loss. Okay, maybe not very bad, but this really hurts UCLA's chances of making the NCAA tournament because now they've only got 6 matches remaining and they're under 500. They're 11-12. They got to win 4 out of the next 6. They've got Washington, which I think they can win that one just because Maddie Ensley is injured. I think 2 of Washington's top hitters are out due to injury, which really sucks for Washington, but them's the breaks. And UCLA did beat Washington the first go-around. And then also this week, UCLA's got Wisconsin, which, man, that's going to be a brutal matchup for the Bruins. So I could see UCLA losing to Wisconsin. They've also got Oregon to close off the season. But if UCLA keeps playing inconsistent, I don't see how they win. I don't see how they make the NCAA tournament. Like, if they go 3-3, they're finishing under 500 and they can't qualify for the NCAA tournament. And even if they finish 4-2, they're not even a lock for the NCAA tournament just because they've had some iffy losses. I mean, the loss to Davis might not be too bad just because Davis could win the Big West Conference tournament, and that does UCLA's a whole lot of favors. But honestly, UCLA is now in a position where they might have played themselves out of an NCAA tournament spot, or they've just made it a whole lot tougher just because now it just gets a whole lot tougher, and they got to win 4 out of their last 2 to even crack 500. And even last year, when they wound up finishing 500, they just wound up missing the tournament by the hair on their chinny chin chin, aka they were the first few out. So yeah, UCLA's got their work really cut out for them. Even though they beat Rutgers on Thursday, they wound up laying a goose egg against Maryland on Saturday, which, man, if you're a UCLA fan, you got to be pulling your hair out for this team Because I had lots of hope for UCLA, and then that loss to Maryland just really derailed them. So Washington is winnable, as it's going to be at Pauley Pavilion. Wisconsin is going to be a tough one, even though it's at home. Indiana, that's going to be in Bloomington. That's a 50-50 game just because Indiana, they're not bad, but they're not the greatest. They're kind of in that middle level. Illinois in Champaign, if they can beat USC, UCLA might have a tough time. So UCLA's got to play their A game. They have to bring their A game against Illinois. Iowa, they'll win that one. I highly doubt they lose that one at home. And then Oregon, that's going to be a real tough one. So UCLA, they got to really play their cards right if they want to make the NCAA tournament. But that's if they crack 500 or better. If they don't crack 500 or better, it's another missed NCAA tournament season, and it's another case of UCLA fans just bickering, saying, "Why did we not make the NCAA tournament?" Anyway, so that's that for UCLA, and that's that for the NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 11 recap. So jumping over to the AVCA TerraFlex poll for today being Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to everybody, and thank you for serving. So we had Penn State moving down to 4, Louisville back up to 3, Creighton still in that top 5. Arizona State's now in the top 10, which I think is really cool. I think that might be their highest ranking in quite a while. Texas is back in the top 15. Minnesota moved down to 16. Utah had the biggest jump of the week. USC is down to number 23. And Missouri, the Tigers, are in the top 25, which I think is awesome sauce. So great job to Missouri. They've won 9 straight matches. They're undefeated at home. Missouri is a team that I don't think anyone wants to play. And they're actually looking really good in terms of possibly winning the SEC. They got to play their cards right, though, and they have Florida this week. So that could be big right there. But that is that for the AVCA Top 25 Coaches Poll. We'll circle back to the Week 12 preview. Right now, let's talk some AVP, as your boy was in attendance for the AVP League Championships, which was awesome sauce. I actually only got to attend day number 2. As day number 1, obviously, I was at the CF Southern Section Division 1 Championship, but day 2 was big right there. Day 2 was big, but day 1 consisted of the Dallas Dream taking on the Miami Mayhem and the New York Nitro taking on the San Diego Smash. So the first match, we saw the Dallas Dream on the women's side sweeping the Miami Mayhem 15-12 and 15-12. That's pretty impressive right there, just because Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg facing the veterans being April Ross and Alex Kleinman. I thought Kleinman and Ross would have come out with a lot of fire, and in addition, this was going to be their last dance. This weekend was their last weekend in terms of playing professional beach volleyball, but Harward and DeBerg really brought it. And then on the men's side, the Dallas Dream took down the Miami Mayhem in 3 sets, 11-15, 15-9, and 15-10. The men's side consisted of Miles Partain and Andy Benish as they took down Theo Brunner and Trevor Crabb in 3 sets, which eventually clinched the entire match for the Dallas Dream, punching their ticket into the AVP League Championship Final. Then we had the New York Nitro versus the San Diego Smash. So this is basically David versus Goliath. The Smash barely got into the AVP League Championships, but in the men's match, it was Chase Budinger. Unfortunately, I pronounce it Budinger, which. But you know how my luck is when it comes to pronouncing names. But Chase Budinger and Miles Evans took on Taylor Sander and Taylor Crabb. And Budinger and Evans wound up winning the match 15-13, 11-15, and 15-8. That's a massive upset just because the 2 Taylors, those are future Olympians possibly. But the current Olympians were able to get the better of the future Olympians. I'm still going to call it right there. And then on the women's side, the San Diego Smash took down the New York Nitro in 3 sets, 15-12, 11-15, and 15-12. The Smash on the women's side consisted of Gina Urango and Tony Rodriguez taking down Sarah Hughes and Kelly Cheng. So big win right there. That's a huge win right there. And the San Diego Smash also punched their ticket into the AVP League Championship final. So that was, oh great, not again. So that was another impressive feat right there. So the San Diego, so if you all remember last week's show, you saw my prediction was New York Nitro versus the San Diego Smash in the or the New York Nitro versus the Miami Mayhem in the AVP League Championship. I'm not surprised that I was proven wrong, and I even said it at the end. I admit I didn't even predict the correct final, so golly. All right, and now for the third place match between the Miami Mayhem and the New York Nitro. On the men's side, the Mayhem wound up winning a thriller of a match as the Mayhem won 19-17, 10-15, and the third set was a whopping 29-27. Remember, the target score was up to 15 points, no matter what. It even surpassed the 21-point mark, let alone the 25-point mark. And again, that was Theo Brunner and Trevor Crabb taking down Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander. And then on the women's side, we had the New York Nitro taking down the Miami Mayhem in straight sets 16-14 and 15-13. Big Sarah Hughes and Kelly Cheng taking down April Ross and Alex Kleinman. So for the first time in the AVP Championship, there was a golden set that needed to be in play. So the golden set is, and I was not told this until 2 days after I did the show, if not maybe 1 day after I did the show. So the golden set is one half of the team, one half of a gender plays the first half of the set, and then the other half of the gender plays the second half of the set, being like let's say the higher seed decides which gender plays the first part of the set. So the higher seed was New York Nitro. They said the men should start the first half of the golden set, and then the women would finish off the second half of the golden set. So eventually the New York Nitro and the Miami Mayhem on the men's side squared off in the first half of the golden set. The Mayhem built an 8-7 lead at the gender switch, and then eventually the Mayhem, being April Ross and Alex Kleinman, wound up outlasting Sarah Hughes and Kelly Cheng. I think it was like 15-12 in the golden set. Regardless, Alex Kleinman and April Ross and the Miami Mayhem finished in third place. So the entire Miami Mayhem pretty much had their last dance. So Theo Brunner and Trevor Crabb also played their last match of their professional career, as well as April Ross and Alex Kleinman. So they all went off with a win, which I thought was awesome. Would have been nice to send them off with hardwood, but them's the breaks. Now for the AVP League Championship final between the Dallas Dream and the San Diego Smash. So the women's side, we had the San Diego Smash just demolishing the Dallas Dream, 59-59. Gina Urango's serve was just straight up wicked. They just served the Dream off the sand. And then on the men's side, we had the Dallas Dream taking down the San Diego Smash in straight sets 15-12 and 15-11. Long story short, Miles Partain and Andy Benish proved why they advanced to the quarterfinals of the Olympics. So that went to a golden set. So the AVP League Championship final went to a golden set. So the first half was the women of the Smash taking on the women of the Dream. It was eventually 8-5 as Tony Rodriguez went on a nice little serving run. And then it was the men's side that finished it off, as eventually the men of the San Diego Smash had championship point at 14-10. But then the Dallas Dream routed off 3 straight points. And suddenly the pressure was on the Smash. But thankfully Chase Budinger ended the match with a kill. And that was how the San Diego Smash went from the bottom of the AVP League to finishing on top as champions. And I basically admitted it to everybody. I admitted I didn't even think that the Smash would even get to the final, let alone the Dallas Dream as well. So congratulations to the San Diego Smash on winning the AVP League Championship in its inaugural year. Here are the champions right there. as let's get rid of this little banner thing. Yeah, they are the champions. From left to right, Gina Arango, Teran Rodriguez, Chase Buninger, and Miles Evans. Had to get that picture in there. So there's that right there for for the San Diego Smash. And overall, it was a great little time. I had to get a picture of the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Schuerman. Yes, there's me with that set point polo, and there's Mark on the right of me. So there you have it right there. Had to get that picture right there. So that's going to basically do it for the AVP portion of the show. And that's it for the AVP season. So I know there's the Laguna Open, but that's not really an AVP tournament. So unless it's like it's an unofficial official AVP league tournament, which I don't think the AVP even has a say in that, but I digress. Anyway, so that's going to do it for the AVP portion of the show. We're going to take one last quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got the NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 12 preview. Keep it locked here. You were listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
I told you that was going to be a quick commercial break. Welcome back to the final part of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out the Neutral Zone, which airs every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time. All right, now let's preview the NCAA Women's Volleyball matches to watch for in Week 12. So as I mentioned, this will take place, obviously Week 12 begins this week, but there aren't any big time matches this week. So Tuesday, nothing really special other than UC San Diego, Long Beach State, which I will be in attendance. If you feel like attending, definitely come see me and come meet me. So yeah. Then Wednesday is where it really gets down and dirty. So Wednesday, we have number 18 TCU taking on number 12 Kansas. This is Kansas's chance at getting back on track. If Kansas loses another match, that could probably put them on the border of not hosting in the NCAA tournament. I think Kansas is in good shape outside of the loss to Arizona and Arizona State. I think Kansas should be fine, but they just can't afford too many losses because this is a big week for them. They've got TCU and they've got Baylor as well. Speaking of Baylor, they're on the road against Kansas State. That's kind of it for the notable matches. I mean, there's also UCLA-Washington, which is a sneaky good matchup. I think if Washington wins that one, they should be set for making the NCAA tournament, but nothing is guaranteed. Then Thursday, we have number 16 Minnesota at number 2 Nebraska. I feel Nebraska's not going to have as easy of a time against Minnesota as most people would think. I think Minnesota's going to bring it. And after losing 2 straight last week to Washington and Oregon, they got to get back on the horse. It's going to be tough when playing at the Bob, but honestly, if Minnesota plays its scrappy defense, I think Minnesota might have a shot, but I got to go with number 2 Nebraska until someone beats Nebraska in Big 12 or Big 10 conference play. I just got to go with the Huskers. Also on Thursday, we have number 6 Wisconsin at number 23 USC. Man, if this has the worst start time ever. The start time for Wisconsin USC is 8 p.m. Pacific time. That's 11 p.m. Eastern time. If you are brave enough to stay up to watch this match on the East Coast, kudos. But 8 p.m. Pacific time, I don't even know if I can make that matchup. I really want to go just because I'm not going to be able to see Wisconsin until next season, or unless I get a big break and I get to cover Wisconsin in the NCAA tournament, but I digress. But this could be my only chance of seeing Wisconsin this season. Also on Thursday, we have Virginia versus number 7 Stanford. Now, I'm getting, from what I've been told, Virginia might actually have a shot at beating number 7 Stanford, but I'll only believe it when I see it. Don't get me wrong. Virginia has a good shot at beating Stanford. I think they can really make some noise against Stanford, but Stanford, I think, should win that one. But don't be surprised if Virginia makes Stanford sweat. Then you got Rutgers at number 8 Purdue, number 9 Arizona State at West Virginia, number 20 Utah at Houston, number 24 BYU at UCF. And that is pretty much that in terms of Wednesday's notable matchups. Yeah, nothing really too special regarding Thursday. Now let's jump to Friday. Friday, we got number 22 Florida State at number 1 Pitt. Many may say Pitt will run through Florida State, but don't count out Florida State. Florida State is a solid team. Obviously, they have that. Obviously, they took Florida to 5. I think Florida State is vastly underrated, but Pitt should be able to handle the Noles, but they just can't underestimate them. Then you got number 3 Louisville hosting Duke, number 4 Penn State hosting Illinois. Illinois, if they want to make a statement to try to make the NCAA tournament, this is the match to make a statement in. I trust Chris Tomas's group to challenge Penn State, even at rapid call. Then you got number 5 Creighton hosting Seton Hall, number 7 Stanford hosting Virginia Tech, number 10 SMU hosting Miami. That's going to be a tough one. I think Miami can challenge SMU. Got number 11 Oregon hosting Northwestern, number 14 Texas at Auburn, number 15 Georgia Tech hosting Syracuse, number 18 TCU at Kansas State, number 19 Dayton at St. Louis, number 21 Florida at number 25 Missouri. That's the big one right there. If Missouri really wants to make a statement of possibly, hence the word possibly, making the NCAA tournament and solidifying their spot of maybe even winning the SEC, this would be the match to do so. Remember, they're undefeated at home, 9-0 at home. They've won 9 straight. They have the win over Texas. They haven't really won any big-time matches, but this would be the biggest big-time match for Missouri to win. And then also on Friday, late at night, you've got Long Beach State heading down to the Big Island to take on Hawaii, which, oh man, there's no match bigger for Long Beach State. And for Hawaii, if they're thinking they're going to get an easy match from Long Beach, I feel they're sadly mistaken. Don't get me wrong. I imagine, even whether Zayna Meyer plays or not, I imagine Hawaii beats Long Beach State, but with Long Beach State fighting for its Big West Conference tournament lives, they got to come up big. Speaking of coming up big in the Big West Conference, this is another sneaky good matchup. UC Irvine at UC Santa Barbara. Both these teams are tied for the final spot of the Big West Conference tournament. UC Irvine beat Santa Barbara at the Bren the first time around. But if Irvine were to lose this one, that could put them in a very tricky situation. Whereas Santa Barbara, if they win, they can move inches closer to maybe punching the ticket to the Big West Conference tournament. Remember, Irvine is hosting, so if Irvine were not to make the tournament in the year they're hosting, that would be so brutal. Then Saturday we have Indiana at number 2, Nebraska, number 6 Wisconsin at UCLA. If UCLA does beat Wisconsin, that maybe could save their chances of making the NCAA tournament. But for right now, UCLA is kind of on the border of making the NCAA tournament. You have number 9, Arizona State at Cincinnati. Number 17, Baylor at number 12, Kansas. Big for Kansas. Kansas really has to come up big this week. If they can come up big this week, I'm giving them team of the week. Number 19, Dayton at St. Louis. Number 20, Utah at UCF. You have number 24, BYU at Houston. No. I was going to say South Dakota State at North Dakota. I don't think that's going to be a true noteworthy matchup. Another noteworthy matchup from the Big West, and I know everyone's probably going to get tired of me talking about the Big West, but UC Irvine, Cal Poly, that could be big time for both teams. UC Irvine's fighting for their Big West Conference tournament lives, and then Cal Poly is fighting to stay atop the Big West Conference tournament. As after that matchup, they would have 2 more matches to go. And that is pretty much that in terms of the notable matchups on Saturday. I mean, San Diego, Oregon State is kind of a notable matchup, but that really isn't all that super, but maybe I'll be wrong. Then Sunday we have number 1 Pitt hosting Miami, which that's going to be a big one. That's going to be a fun one. I think Miami, if they play the way they played against Texas and Stanford, even though they played on the edge, they may have a shot against Pitt. But if Pitt's expecting an easy match, they can't afford to lose this one. If they lose this one, we're going to be seeing Nebraska at number 1. Then number 3, Louisville hosts North Carolina. North Carolina, if they want to get back into the top 25, they're going to need to beat a big-time team. Louisville would be that perfect team, but honestly, Louisville hosting this one, I don't trust it. Number 4, Penn State is at Maryland. Number 5, Creighton is hosting Georgetown. Creighton should have a pretty much of I wouldn't say cupcake schedule, but a fairly favorable schedule down the stretch. I don't see Creighton losing the rest of the way in the regular season. The only time I see Creighton losing is probably the Big East Conference tournament where Marquette would probably knock them off. But other than that, Creighton should run the table for the most part. Then you have number 9, Purdue hosting Illinois. Again, if Illinois wants to make a statement and a good case of making the NCAA tournament, a win over Purdue would be superb. Then you have number 22, Florida State at number 10, SMU. If Florida State wants to make a statement of hosting, a win over number 10, SMU would be a big-time win for them. But SMU is still playing some great volleyball. And if SMU wants to solidify its spot in the top 16, they just got to make sure they don't lose to any not-so-good teams. Then you also have number 11, Oregon, at number 23, USC. God, I would love to attend this match. Only problem is I've kind of got my second job on Sunday. Other than that, maybe I could attend. Maybe. I have a better shot at attending the Oregon USC match than the Wisconsin USC match. And that's no disrespect to Wisconsin. The timing is just so bad. Sunday, it's a 1 p.m. Pacific start time, but I love my NFL and I love my Sundays to myself, so we'll see. Then you have number 13, Kentucky hosting Georgia. Could be an underrated matchup right there, just because Georgia could be fighting for its NCAA tournament lives. And then Kentucky, obviously they want to stay on track for winning the SEC. Speaking of the SEC, number 14, Texas is at Alabama. They should probably win that one easy. Number 15, Georgia Tech hosts Boston College. Same can be said for Georgia Tech. Number 16, Minnesota hosts Michigan. Michigan could give Minnesota a tough time, but I think the Golden Gophers pick up the win. And then I forgot to mention this on Saturday. You have Hawaii hosting UC San Diego. That could be for first place in the Big West Conference. But UC San Diego has to get through Long Beach State, which that's going to be a tough matchup. And then Hawaii's got to get through Long Beach State the night before they face UC San Diego. So it's a huge week for UC San Diego, Hawaii, UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, and Long Beach State. And that is pretty much that in terms of all of the notable matchups. If I missed any other notable matchups, do let me know. Do reach out to me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point IE and then on Instagram at set_point IESR. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the entire Week 12 recap or Week 12 preview. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I know I kind of went past 90 minutes, but I promise you all this probably won't be happening again because all I've got will be high school girls volleyball and then the NCAA women's volleyball and maybe a little bit of some 3C2A. But I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen anytime, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Maybe I will let you all know if I can make the USC-Wisconsin match. I've got work that day, but time will tell. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez starting off. Have an amazing rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action. Thank you to Mikey Two Guns for saying, great show, man. I appreciate you. And I will see you most likely Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Peace! And thank you to Daryl Trujillo for being a guest as well. Much appreciated to him.
Yeah.